What's the matter, bud?
Huh? Oh. I've been having a hard time finding guests for my show. I interview interesting people who do interesting things, and then they show me one thing, but I haven't been able to find anyone to teach me one thing.
Well, I have some time today if you want me to teach you something.
Really?
Sure.
Do you mind if I give you like a quick job interview?
Sure.
Okay, all right. So what do you do?
I brew beer.
What's the 4 ingredients in beer?
Water, malt, hops, and yeast.
How many ounces in an imperial pint?
20.
Can you chew gum and walk at the same time?
Mostly.
What's your sign?
Sagittarius.
Boxers or briefs?
Boxer briefs.
You're hired. Let's do it.
Great.
Cool. Come on, let's
Let's go.
Come along with me into a strange world. A beer place that I've never been to before. Have you ever been lost in a brewery before? Because neither have I. Let's ask ourselves a question. What is beer? Is beer truly a gift given to man from God? What is beer and how do you make it? Those are the answers we choose to seek out. I guess come along with me. Come as we step into a world of wonder. A world that I probably won't remember tomorrow. But something's brewing. So Ben,
Yes.
what are we doing today?
All right, so first thing we need to do is we need to crush our grain to access all the sugars for the beer.
Okay, so what do we need to get started?
So we're gonna get you a respirator, a pair of glasses, you're gonna need some boots, and a man bun.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's do it. I got all those things. Smells like beers in here.
Yeah, it usually does.
Cool. Okay, so anything
now-
else that we need?
Yep, so here's your grain. As you can see, it's still full kernels. So we're just gonna throw them in this mill and crack them.
Not too much.
Nope, you can fill it right up.
Oh.
Perfect.
It says my hands shouldn't go in there.
No, you want to keep our hands out of there. And over on the side, there's the on-off button. Go ahead and press the on button and let her rip.
Okay, what's next?
So now we can start brewing.
Great, let's do it.
Let's go. So our next step in the process is we're going to mash our grains into this kettle called the mash tun. This is where we convert the carbohydrates into the fermentable sugars that create the beer in the end.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So Ben, you weren't always the master brewer for Strange Design. What did you do in your past life?
So before I got into the brewing world, I was actually a mason. So I, bricks, concrete, everything. But I started brewing at home just as a hobby that came through actually from one of my mason jobs. And it got me into the brewing process, which in turn led me into doing it as a career. And I've been happy ever since. It's been fantastic.
What are you doing right now?
So right now we're adding our strike water. So this is the hot water that has that converts or activates the enzymes to convert the starches into the sugars.
Cool.
And if you wouldn't mind handing me that bucket. So in here, yep. So I have, they're called brewing salts. So in here is like gypsum, Epsom salt. It's to add specific ions to the water to activate the certain enzymes and get like a flavor profile that you're looking for.
Ooh,
So we're going to add this right to our foundation water.
that's all the flavor.
Yes.
All the flavor.
There you go. So inside here, I have what's called a false bottom. So they're metal racks that have real slight grooves in them to keep the grain from going through. So the grain all stays in here. So when we do transfer liquid, the grain will stay and the liquid will move. So right now I just want my water level to be above the false bottom so that I can start adding the grain and getting everything mixed up with the water.
Cool. So you started as a home brewer, which is crazy. What's it like working with huge equipment? It must be like going from play school to like an industrial setting.
Oh yeah, it was a wild ride. Like when we first got this brew house installed, it took me a good month of just coming in here and figuring out what valve turned what on, which pipe led the beer to different places. So it took me a long time to figure it out, but it was all, a well worth learning curve.
I have a question. Which valve directs the beer into my mouth?
That one would be the draft tower upstairs. We can find that later.
I can't wait to see that.
Okay, so my water's above the false bottom, so now is when I'm going to start adding the grain. I'll add one bag, mix it in, and I'll let you come give it a shot.
Yeah.
Great.
As I watched Ben pour the huge bags of grain into that tiny hole, the only thing I could think to myself was, God, I hope I don't spill.
Trade ya?
Sure.
So now what I'm doing is I'm just making sure that the grain doesn't clump up into a hard ball, because once it clumps, it stays dry and we can't access the sugars.
See, I totally thought that paddle was for something else. I like how he's doing all the hard work.
Trust me, it's rewarding in the end.
You got to burn off those calories somehow.
Exactly.
If I did this job, I'd probably be like 5,000 pounds. Because it's not the beer that gets me. It's the after you've had a couple and like he lives and works in a place that has a full kitchen. Crazy. I would be in there all the time.
Yes. The temptations are real in here. So I also forgot to mention I have rakes in here that spin around to kind of make sure everything is a nice consistency. So I'm going to go turn those right on.
Oh, that smell.
Yeah, this is my favorite part of brew day.
Oh my God.
Okay, Andy, I'll have you go ahead and pour a bag in.
Cool. I'm going to pour this small bag.
Sure. We'll work you up.
Wow, that's so cool.
I had done it. I managed to pour all of the stuff into the thing without spilling any. Okay, just play it cool. Play it cool, man.
I'll leave the paddling to you.
Okay.
Master brewer, master paddler.
I'm pretty good with a kayak.
Is that what you and the wife call it? Kayaking?
When the kids are around.
Cool. What's next?
So now that our grains have mashed in and we've converted to our sugars, now it's time to rinse these grains and get all the sugars out and transfer it over to the boil kettle.
As an Asian, I know all about rinsing grain. You can't make good sticky rice without rinsing your grains.
This is true.
Is that similar? Like, why are we rinsing the grain? To remove the starch?
No, so we've converted the starch into the sugars already. So we're just getting all the sugar that we can possibly get out of that grain and transferring it over.
Cool.
So this is called a wort grant. This will allow me to maintain a steady flow between my fresh water coming in and my wort coming out. So now I'm going to come up here and you're going to see as the liquid flows through this pipe, it's going to come around back and up into my boil kettle. So now I'm watching my levels to make sure my output is the same as my input. And I can see now that its flow is a little slow, so I'm going to increase my pump speed.
That's what she said. I just want to drink it already.
Well, now would be a good time to take a sample if you want.
Really?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So here's a little glass if you want to get yourself a sample. Oh, that's very hot liquid.
Oh.
You might want a glove. Go ahead and fill that thing right up.
You would.
All the way.
That. Oh, God.
That's good.
Wordy.
Wordy, yes. Now that is going to be very sweet. Hopefully, that's the goal. We want this liquid to be as sweet as we can get it.
Oh my God. That's actually pretty good. Do you guys want to try it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's film him.
It is very sweet.
Okay.
Yes. Can I have this?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Can I have this?
Sure. Damn.
Okay, that's yours.
Filming and drinking. You won't catch a buzz.
No alcohol yet.
No alcohol yet. So the sugars is what will convert into the alcohol once the yeast does its job.
So this is all kind of set it and forget it now, or you guys still
Kind
do
of,
some
sort of. Like I said earlier, you have to kind of baby it once the volumes increase in here and then decrease in here, because then your flows are going to change based on head pressure. So now we're going to start rinsing the grain over here. So inside here I have what's called a sparge arm. So it's basically a tube that has perforated holes on it, so the water can gently trickle down onto the grain.
That is weird. I feel like I'm like looking into a science experiment or something. What got you into brewing beer?
So just the thought of being able to make it yourself was enough to get me interested in it. So we were working on a job for a customer, and he brought up some beer from a basement after the day was done and gave us a couple IPAs and was like, here you go, I made this myself. So I tried it and I was just like, wow, you can really make your own beer at home. So after that, he sent me home with a book and I just dove right in.
What's the easiest way for someone at home to get started with home brewing?
So the way I did it was I went out and I bought this book. It's the one I used was called The Complete Joy to Homebrewing by Charlie Papazian. He's basically the godfather of the homebrewing movement. So after that book, I just started reading, and then he guides you along on a nice, easy journey for starting really small and then all the way into same process as this, just not this scale.
So does that book explain like where they can get the equipment to do that? Or is there like a kit or something you can get from Barnes and Nobles?
So nowadays, there's many options for kits. You can buy whole recipe kits that start with just like a malt extract, it's basically the process we're doing now, but they've concentrated it into a syrup. So that all you have to do is throw it in some water and boil it. So you don't have to mash any grains. You don't have to do any of that. So it's very simple. All you need is a pot big enough to hold whatever size batch you want to do, and the recipe kit, which you can get. There's online stores, there's local homebrew shops, you could get them. There's a few around this area.
Between what you're doing here and like a homebrew kit, is there going to be like a big noticeable difference in the quality of beer, or do homebrewers have the same access to quality product at the end of the process as you do? You know, is that something, or are they losing quality because they're not working with the same equipment?
Well, the only thing that increases the quality is your ability to control every different aspect. So here I can control temperatures at every different phase of the process. So my fermentation is controlled with the temperature. I can control my mash temperatures very well. So, I mean, you can still make great quality beer at home without having all the bells and whistles, as long as your process is clean.
Okay, one last quick question. before we move on, what's the number one obstacle or like the number one thing for a home brewer that they mess up the first time they do it? What's the biggest thing that you say, look out for this?
Boil overs. So when you're bringing your wort to a boil, if you're not paying attention, there's a thing called a protein break, and it can coagulate these proteins and just create an immense amount of foam. And I've made messes in the kitchen before by just turning my back on the boil kettle at that stage.
Foam, my favorite part of the beer.
Okay, so now that we've come up to a nice boil, we're going to measure out our hops. According to our recipe that I made the other day, we're going to measure out 10 ounces of hops. So we can go ahead and get this going.
That's your secret recipe?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay.
I keep them very near and dear to my heart.
Oh.
All right, Andy, if you want to grab the hops, now we can go throw them in the kettle.
All right. Wow. So, like, why is it like this?
So they come in a pelletized form just because of storage purposes. So normally they'll look like a small pine cone, and they'll just be like 1 pound of hops as a cone would be an immense volume, while as a pound of pelletized hops is very small and compact. It's going to be bitter. Yeah, polite pass for me. I told you.
Oh.
I take it you're not an IPA drinker. This liquid will get very angry when you start to put hops in, and it will boil up and bubble and foam. So very slowly. And I'm gonna be right with you with the paddle in case we do get a little out of control.
Okay.
So why don't you come on the other side of me? Okay, so just nice and slow. Also watch the steam, it'll hurt your hand. Okay, hold up. That was a close one.
Was it?
Yeah.
Too much?
Okay, a little more. Nice and slow. Okay.
That is hot.
Yes.
All I can taste is hops.
That's all you're gonna taste all day.
I can smell and taste.
Hey, what are you doing?
Slugworth will be pleased.
Get back here! All right, so now that our wort has boiled and everything's done, now it's time to cool it down. So the reason for cooling the wort down is we have to get it as cold as we can, as fast as we can, to avoid any kind of contamination coming in for any kind of outside bacteria. And as you can see, the liquid's starting to come through. And now we can turn our pump on and start moving the fluid through. And it'll go down our brewer's hose. And I have a sight glass over here with a valve to drain all the sanitizer out. And then once we start seeing our wort come through here, then we can shut our valve off and send it into the fermenter. All right, and I can see there's wort coming through now, so I'll shut this off, and then we'll send it into the tank. All right, so once our wort's fully transferred over, now it's time we would pitch our yeast. So what the yeast will do is it will eat all those sugars that we got out of the mash tun earlier, and it will convert it into alcohol and CO2. And then it'll take about normally 2 weeks for an ale, longer for a lager, but in about 2 weeks we'll be able to just keg it up and crack one open.
So what you're saying is, see you in 2 weeks.
Exactly.
Ben, thank you so much for sharing with us today all of this.
My pleasure.
Awesome. Hi guys, we're here with Tommy and Kristi, owners of Strange Design Brewery in Geneseo, New York. Thank you guys so much for having us today.
Thanks for coming.
I got a million questions for you, but the first one I have is, how did you guys get into this? I mean, I'm sure you guys didn't go to college to learn how to brew beer.
No.
I went to college to learn how to drink one.
Yeah, that's generally true.
What did you guys do before?
So I I went to college here, you say that, in Geneseo, and I then went on to become a school counselor, and I did that for 19 years. But while that was happening, my parents owned a bar and restaurant. So my upbringing and working in that establishment is what helped me feel a little more confident that we could pull this off. And then Tommy.
Well, we bought the bar in 2011 from her parents, and immediately we were already craft beer fans,
Yeah.
and I was already a home brewer, and it just made sense to try and figure out how to make the bar a little brewery. So we figured that out back in 2014, and went from there. I've got nothing after that.
Yeah, but you went to Chicago for 2 weeks to the Siebel Institute.
Yes, yeah.
And that really, I think, helped your confidence in terms of
It did, yeah.
being, more knowledgeable than just your.
And our daughter is super proud too that I went to beer school. She tells all her friends.
Did she send you off on your first day?
Actually, we went to visit. He was there for 2 weeks, and this poor little girl was just like, "Where's my daddy?" And so we went the second week and actually stayed. It was during their spring
How
break.
old is your daughter?
She's 15 now, but at the time she was 7,
Oh
and
my God.
she missed him so much. It was terrible.
I'm imagining your 7-year-old daughter packing your lunch for school and dropping a can of beer into your
Beer
lunchbox.
school.
Daddy's going to beer school. I mean,
She's waving goodbye, and you're stumbling towards the bus, okay, bye, see you later.
yeah, I don't think many kids can say my dad's at beer school. So it was fun for us as a family.
Yeah.
And for him to just get that experience and kind of pushed us a little farther. So
And so from the Amber Lantern too, once we got into it, we realized we loved it even more.
The Amber Lantern in Greece?
In Warsaw.
no, in Warsaw.
Warsaw.
So that's the place that my parents owned that we bought in 2011. And then that's where we first had our very first in-house brewery. Before that, he was literally brewing in the driveway in a stand that he made. And yeah, and that's where he kind of honed his craft until he went to beer school. And then once we were able to establish that, an opportunity came up over here in Livingston County, and that was kind of this is our dream,
What they're talking about right there is so important because essentially they're describing what people consider luck, preparedness, meeting opportunity. This started as a hobby for them in a situation that probably seems scary. Maybe they were unsure if this was the right move, if they could afford it, but their passion, their drive to learn how to brew beer, their love of beer, that was them being prepared. But the opportunity, the bar coming along and the diving in head first, that was the opportunity. And it just makes sense that when you have those two things, it can be viewed as luck, but it's not luck. It's not luck. That is really interesting how you guys got started. But for the people watching this channel, can you speak to a little bit about the feelings you were having when you were launching this? I'm sure it was probably scary.
Terrifying.
Terrifying is a good word. So when this opportunity first came up to be here in Livingston County was 2015, correct?
Yeah, or 16 possibly, yeah.
Okay. So as that was happening, and we went through a process called Brew in Livingston. So it was put on by Livingston Economic Development, and it was to encourage craft breweries to open in the area. So as we're going through this process, we're looking for a place. They were encouraging everyone to find, where is your brewery going to be? And at the time, Geneseo did not have a brewery. And so this was very, in our minds, like the place to be. It's a college town. Why don't they have a brewery? We're just talking about how important beer is, right? So this building you found when?
In 2016, yeah, 2017.
Okay.
The startup, yeah.
So
we looked at another building on the end of this property here, and the whole time I just keep looking over here, going, what's happening over there? We were told nothing is going to happen there, but we just kept on pushing, and finally got to the right person, and it made something happen.
yeah, and it was all about sharing our vision and what we thought we could create here, but really getting someone to appreciate it and understand it and support it.
I have to ask this. What's your favorite beer?
I like Psychometry. It's our IPA. It's kind of like our house IPA. It's got it all for me. Perfect combination.
Yeah, I'm an IPA girl, so Psychometry, but I will say Waiting in a Velvet Haze, the new one that Ben created, is
Delicious.
It's pretty awesome.
So that's an interesting thing. Ben, I've known Ben for a long time, and when I asked him if we could come here, you guys were gracious enough to host us, and again, thank you for that. How did you guys meet Ben, and how is how has his experience been coming into the fold here?
Ben and I are both bass players also, and we met, his wife and Ben, and both of us met at a small music festival in 2006 or 7 maybe.
It was a long time ago.
And Ben actually jumped up on stage during my set with my partner that we were playing with, and Ben, we just hit it off. Hadn't seen each other again for another almost 10 years, And Ben walked in one day when we poured our first beer at Amber Lantern, because he had planted a hop garden at his house. And
Cheshire.
Yeah, Cheshire Moon Hop. Yep. And come strolling in. I remembered him. We hit it off again. I was brewing and learning quickly that I couldn't do it all, brew and run the business and be dad and do everything you need to do. So I called Ben up, and he said he had some home brewing experience, and took it from there. He's been with us ever since.
You see that? Both of these guys started as homebrewers. It's crazy to think that you can, and it's crazy to think that you can't do these things that you want from life. You can go from brewing beer in your driveway
Apparently.
to brewing on a massive scale like they are here. That, guys, is what this is all about. Guys, if you want to see me learn how to play the bass, let me know in the comments below, and maybe we'll get them back for a second episode. But in the meantime, I think I probably should learn how to go to the gym. I want to thank you guys again. Thank you again so much for having us today. But for all of our viewers out there, would you just let us know where they can find you on social media and where we are?
Okay, we're on Facebook and Instagram as Strange Design Public House. We are also on TikTok as Strange Design Brewing. And we are located physically at 4570 Millennium Drive in Geneseo, the heart of Livingston County, New York. And we are open Tuesday through Sunday. We have a full menu available, generally 14 to 16 beers on tap. And we also serve a Sunday brunch, which I think is really awesome.
Guys, you gotta check this place out. I had a blast doing this today. I hope you guys did too. See you next time.